Okay, I hope you don't mind if we kick on while you finish up your breakfast, get coffee. The staff will take away the plates and that we don't need to wait. We've all got what's left of the economy to contribute to. So while we're here, we saw that advert for Pace Car Rental. Please, I'd like to start off by thanking Pace for supporting us. It's been some time now. I'm not going to hold it against them that they've started to advertise on Sizwe and Porful Walsh show. But you know, if you want loyalty, buy a dog. That's what I always say. But Darren, thank you to you and your team for supporting us. It really does make a difference. If anybody else wants to sponsor, I'm right here. Let's kick off with the rest of our program. The real reason that you came here today is to hear from two of the most outspoken people in this country. And boy, we need as many outspoken people as possible. My job today is I might be swapping my State of the Nation tie for a bow tie later because I might have to referee this one, as the two of them may have divergent views. But leading us off is a very interesting man who certainly has appeared on all of your screens. He has been a guest on the State of the Nation. He styles himself as the capitalist activist capitalist. I'm never sure which way it is. But Rob Hersov comes from a business family, Anglo-Val, mining money. But, you know, it's always a thing to come from money, but it's another thing to make your own money. And I think that is difficult because I know if I came from money, I may stay at home and, you know, play video games, but Rob chose not to, mainly because there were no video games back then. But he has carved a wonderful career for himself in media and many other things, traveled the world and found himself back in South Africa and seemed to start off something which hasn't quite caught fire yet, but please God that it should. And that was somebody that we would term a businessman actually speaking out. You know, there's an old saying that South African business has never met a government they didn't like. And boy, we watched our corporates go from licking the boots of National Party politicians to licking the boots of African Nationalist Congress politicians. And in every case, it's helped their companies get monopolies. It's helped them write bad legislation that kept their companies in monopolistic positions. Those days should be over. And leading the charge is Rob Hersov, fresh from a trip around the world where he went to explain how South Africa works to the media. And I'm dying to hear what he has to tell us today. So please welcome on stage Rob Hersov.
Mike, if you ever need another job, stand-up comedy's right there for you. And actually stole a lot of the things I was going to say because I was actually quite proud of being the 7th most hated South African. Because all my friends thought it was really funny. They said, if you're not going to be number one, what's the point? But Mike, your State of the Nation address earlier is one of the best summaries, one of the best State of the Nation addresses I've heard about South Africa today. And I want to take a clip of that and send it to all my international contacts. Because if you want to understand where South Africa is today, Mike Sham's State of the Nation has nailed it. And I am really proud to know. And I mean that. And it's not just because he bought me breakfast. And I know all of you treat me as a Cape Townian, okay, which I currently am, but I grew up on West Road South. And my parents, my father's 99 in August, my mother 92, are there, and I'm going to have lunch with them. So I'm a local boy. And I walked in here at 7:01 this morning, and the room was 90% full. That never happens in Cape Town. In Cape Town, you'd be waiting half an hour. Most of the people will forget it happened. They'd cancel. It's a different environment. People in Joburg work. You get up in the morning and you make shit happen. And that is going to be the saving grace of South Africa. People like you, not the Cape Townians. And I'm being honest. And I've told them that. In fact, when we moved down there 6 years ago, came back from overseas, my New Zealand wife said, we've got to live in Cape Town. Okay, so we moved in there. It was like throwing a warthog into a rabbit pen. And half of Cape Town, actually half of South Africa, don't invite me to dinner parties, don't invite me to play golf anymore. And they just know I'm Marmite. I really am Marmite. You love me or you hate me. And Mike's nephew, said, what did you say to me just now? It's very funny. He said he was holding an event and he asked, who would you like to come as the speaker? And he said a large number of people said Rob Hersov, but also a large number of people said, please not Rob Hersov. So on that note, I think I've probably made it. In a business speech, as Mike told you, I did sort of announce I called it a retirement, but it really isn't. It's just I needed to take a break. For 4 years, I've been standing up and speaking to South Africa and saying more and more outrageous, aggressive, provocative things. Today, calling Fikile and Mbalula a moron, which he is no longer such a shock because people know it and more people are saying it. Calling Paul Mashatile a gangster is no longer such a surprise anymore because he is, and we all know it. So all of these things that I said 3-4 years ago shocked people. I had Bridget Radebe call me and say, you cannot be so insulting to the ANC. And I was like, but it's the truth. And I took a lot of hits early on, but things are improving. So I decided to take a break simply because I would wake up angry, open the newspaper, get angrier, receive calls from people desperately in need, asking for help, wanting to whistleblow. I'd get even angrier. And by the end of the day, I was not much fun to be around. And so I decided I needed a break. And my wife calls this a hobby and an obsession. She doesn't know what it is. But I will be back. I just needed to take a bit of time off, but I wasn't going to let Mike down. And at the breakfast this morning, JJ Tabane I'd heard him talking to someone else, and he said, national dialogue, and just triggered me. I said, national dialogue is a effing disgrace. And are there any cameras on me? Robbie Brosen and Bobby Godsall, you should be disgraced with yourselves for being on that national dialogue. Spending 700 million. What are you doing? Are you ass-kissing Cyril? Grow some cojones and resign. That national dialogue is a disgrace. In this room, we know, and Mike even summarized it beautifully in this speech, we know what the issues are. We know what the problems are. We know how to solve them. And I do agree with Mike that I'm very pessimistic, short and medium term, but I am optimistic longer term because South Africa can be fixed. And the political situation is moving in the right direction. It's just so slow. It's so slow. I turned 65 this year. By the 2029 elections, let's do the math, I'll be closing in on 70. And when the boom that South Africa so deserves, when we become a 5 to 10% GDP growth nation, which we can do, when our 1.5 million people that have left the country begin to return with skills, with money, with contacts, and this country will lift, I will be 70-something, okay? The good news is my dad's 99, so I've probably got another 30 years to drive you mad. So I want to talk a little bit about my trip to America, which was fascinating. I did a podcast tour of America. Dave Rubin, Patrick Bet-David, Charlie Kirk, Laura Logan. I was on all the Beltway and MAGA and DC television networks. I then went to London. I was on Trigonometry. In Australia on Sky News. I did 10 minutes on Sky News. It's gone to almost 1 million views. Sky News Australia. The Dave Rubin, the 10 minutes I did with him, 1.3 million views. So, extraordinary trip, and I want to tell you about it. But before I do, I just want to say, if any of you, you've listened to some of my speeches, remember, well before the American election, I was pro-Trump. Well before. And every dinner or lunch I'd go to, say there were 12 people, 6 men and 6 women, the 5 other men would absolutely agree with me, but were too terrified to say it publicly, okay, even at that dinner. And out of the 6 women, 4 would be anti-Trump, and 2 would probably say, Rob, we think you're right. Look at what Trump has done in 6 months. Look at what he has done in America. He is head and shoulders the best president America's ever had this century, and probably for the last 100 years. Here is why. Before he got elected, and then I'll tell you why it's relevant to South Africa, because you're looking at a worried face there. Before he got elected, he said he would close the border. He closed the border. They said it couldn't be done. He closed it. There were 12,000 illegal immigrants pouring through the borders in America, undocumented. Okay? Probably a number of them paid by Iran, who've set up sleeper cells in America, thanks to the Democrats. He has closed the border from 12,000 people a day to 0. He is now removing illegal immigrants. Everyone gets all wound up about this immigrant thing. Illegal immigrants, out. Okay? Inflation, everybody said, is going to explode. Inflation's under control in America. Jobs are up. Everything on the remember when everybody said his tariffs are going to destroy the stock exchange? Today, it's highest point ever. Everybody got Trump wrong, except me, of course. In America, the domestic economy is stronger than ever. America is about to become by far the strongest economic superpower. It is already, but it's going to be 10 times stronger. And look at Europe, pathetic, weak, semi-socialist, lazy, go on holiday all the time. Europe, they're going to be left behind. If your kids are overseas or planning to go overseas, they should go to America. That country is about to take off like you cannot imagine. Internationally, what has Trump done? He walked into a meeting in NATO and said, you lazy Europeans are going to pay for your own defense. Okay? They've agreed to 5%. 5%. It was 2%, and the cheating Catholic countries like Spain, Portugal, and Italy weren't coming up with their share. Now it's 5%, and Europe has agreed. He got NATO to stand on their own 2 feet, the European NATO, and fund themselves. He solved the war, Rwanda-Congo. Done. Forgot about that? He sorted out the potential disaster, India, Pakistan. Forget about that? He did that too. Iran, flattened. Not one American military life lost. Iran, flattened. Okay? Now, Lady Pandor, your buddies are gone. The only issue still happening internationally that he hasn't resolved is the Ukraine-Russia war. But Russia is very, very weak. China is very, very weak. North Korea is weak, and Iran is flattened. So Russia is going to bend the knee. And America is now sending serious military weapons, right now, agreed last week, to the European countries. The Europeans are going to pay for them, and they will be distributed to the Ukraine. Watch what happens in that war over the next 3 months. The weaponry America is sending is second to none. And if you look at the internal cultural issues in America, DEI gone. Men are men and women are women, which we all knew anyway. The net zero nonsense, which would bankrupt the West, has been kicked to touch. And he has done this in 6 months. And look at the tariffs, and now we come to South Africa. What are the tariffs? The tariffs aren't a mathematical formula. It's a threat by Donald Trump that now people realize they have to take seriously. We will impose tariffs on your country unless you come to the table and work out a deal. Well, 70 countries immediately flew to Washington to work on a deal. And guess who wasn't there? spineless Cyril and his bunch of muffins. They went there in that embarrassing beyond belief Oval Office meeting. Okay? I sleep with my door open. Embarrassing. Where all Cyril was trying to achieve was, we're a sovereign nation, leave us alone. Trump was open to discuss a deal. And South Africa has scored another own goal. And South Africa in August are going to have 30 and potentially 40% tariffs, because it's a 30% tariff on South Africa and an additional 10% on BRICS countries. It's going to wipe our economy. Enoch Gonagwana, who I like, and who puts up with me, takes my call, in his first budget, had a 1.8% economic growth target. We're not even going to make 0.5% when these tariffs come in. This country is not growing, but our population growth is at 2% and has been for a long time. What that means is we're getting poorer every year. So I'm not going to go into all the bad news. Mike has given you the factual situation. You all know it's a mess. We've run out of money. We're on the edge of becoming a failed state economically. We know that. And we know what has to be done. What has to be done? Footsack ANC has to be done. I'm going to count to three. I'm going to count to three. I want all of you to say Footsack ANC. I want it once in my lifetime. 1, 2, 3. Footsack ANC! Did you get that on film? Thank you. Now I can rest. So, what is also coming from America is serious sanctions against South Africa. It's not just tariffs, it's sanctions against South Africa. Congressman Ronnie Jackson in Texas, bill should go into Congress in August, September, and should be law if it gets through the Senate by the end of the year. Within that bill are targeted sanctions against ANC leaders and government officials, which I've encouraged Congressman Ronnie Jackson, which you can too, I'll give you his email, to expand to include purveyors of hate speech and nasty anti-Semites like National Dialogue Imtiaz Suleiman participants and other people, nasty hate speech people, corrupt criminals, kleptocrats, are all going to be added to that bill. And it isn't a joke. When America sanctions you through SDN, the Magnitsky Act, and puts you on their lists, it's not just an asset freeze. It's you cannot go on holiday or fly on an airplane that is American or American linked. And I'll give you one more fact, which is terrifying. If you want to wire money from Standard Bank to an overseas bank anywhere, and the intermediary bank is in any way linked to America or Europe, bye-bye your money. It'll be frozen and you're stuck. So these lovely people, Cyril included, are in for a major headache. And I think Cyril owns McDonald's franchises in this country, doesn't he? Oh, I wonder if he'll have those by the end of the year. So there was an interesting question put to me. Sorry, before I do that. In my State of the Nation summary, to add to what Mike has said, we know about state capture, but there's been 4 elements of capture that we need to be aware of. Okay? The first is state capture, which we all know about. Gupta and the Zumas put it in place. The second is democratic institution capture. So it's not just the state-owned enterprises, but it's all elements of our democracy are compromised by cadres, by people that have put in place to do the bidding of the ANC and not do the bidding of what is good for you and all the people in this country. We have had economic capture. And it's not just EWC, BEE, but it's at all elements now. Our economy has been compromised. But the one that no one talks about is judiciary capture. If you look at our judiciary, and I haven't done the work here, but David and Sarah of the Free Market Foundation, Institute of Race Relations, Mark Oppenheimer and other extraordinary people are working on it. My belief is that 60% to 70% of the judges in this country are either cadres or completely and utterly stupid. Which means that you don't have certainty, if you're going to the judiciary in this country, that your case will be dealt with fairly, and that the result could easily go haywire in the wrong direction or be 100% influenced by the ANC to your detriment. This country is captured. It's captured. So I got asked an interesting question by how am I doing for time? I got asked an interesting question by the American State Department about a year ago. They said, we've got a question about South Africa, because the AGOA agreement and the fisheries agreement, South Africa hasn't even filled in the forms. Is it malevolence, evil, or incompetence? I thought, what an interesting question. There's a huge level of incompetence. If you look at Fikile, he's thick as two planks. And if you extrapolate that through a number of other ANC people, you'll realize there's some very stupid people in government. Very stupid. I mean, Gwede is a communist. You've got to be a moron to still be a communist in this day and age. And I said that to him on the phone. Gwede called me the other day and asked me about something. We speak to each other. I don't know. They call me, they speak to me. And I said to him, Gwede, how can you be so stupid to believe in communism? And he said, do you believe in God? I said, yeah. He said, it's the same thing. And I almost banged the phone against my head and went, this is what we're dealing with. No wonder $20 billion has not come into South Africans mining and has gone to other mining companies. That idiot Gwede Mantashe. Those Madalas have got to be retired. So I've come to the conclusion, malevolence or incompetence. I think the ANC just don't care. I think they actually don't care. They're sitting there in their ivory towers. They've bribed 100 of the biggest families, Motsepe, Mosengoashang, Punkusawazi, I'm going to name the other 97, that have taken R1 trillion off the table. They're bribed and owned by the ANC. And the poor people, 25 million people living off social grants, have been bribed and captured by the ANC. That's how it works. The ANC doesn't care about this country. When Cyril sends Jonas, Mcebisi Jonas, as the envoy for South Africa, the chairman of MTN, which has been taking money from Iran and feeding it to the ANC, and Jonas is the chairman, how stupid do you have to be to send Jonas as our next envoy? I mean, Ibrahim Rasool, the anti-Semite, was bad enough. But then you go to Jonas, and you just realize Cyril is either fundamentally stupid or he doesn't care. And I've come to the conclusion, ANC doesn't care for this country. They just want to steal, look after their friends, and rip this place off for as long as they can. And Mike was right. If they had any brains, they'd help the economy to grow so they could steal for longer. But why I'm pessimistic short term is because they only have till 2029 to keep stealing. Because in 2029, they are gone. And I don't know if you listened to Prince Mashele speaking. He's an incredible guy. One of the very few speeches that I've listened and thought I agree with 100% of what he said, Prince Mashele. He said in 2029, the ANC will be irrelevant. Let's get to Joburg. Joburg is a shithole. And you all know it. There's no service delivery. It's falling apart. It's a disaster. For what was the economic powerhouse of Africa is a shithole. But you know it. Helen Zille, this is the biggest political play of all. Helen Zille has moved here and is running to run Gauteng. If she stood today for the vote, she wouldn't make it. But she's got another year and a bit to do it. And if she and the DA win Gauteng, this is the biggest chess move of all. And if you think I came up with this thought, I sat next to Frans Cronje on the flight up yesterday, and he told me this. He said, without a doubt, this is the biggest chess move of all in politics in South Africa. Helen Zille moving up here to our RDP house in a cheap car to run and fix Gauteng. And why Gauteng might actually back her is because people are sick of no service delivery. They're actually sick of it. The majority of Johannesburgers and Gautengers are tired of potholes, are tired of no water, are tired of electricity. They've had enough. This could be the biggest swing in politics at the next municipal for Gauteng if the DA win. And I would beg you to stop stuffing around and voting for all these little parties. In this election, we all need to get behind the DA, get the ANC out, and get Johannesburg fixed, because it can be done. It can be done. This is one last chance. And if you want to look at the leaders in this country, by far and away, the most impressive leader in this country, in my view, is Helen Zille. By far and away. And Mike, you said people need to fight. You know, the Mike Tyson comment. You know, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. Helen Zille is a fighter. In fact, she's moving up here, taking on this the toughest assignment of all. I cannot give anyone more credit than that. She is the lioness we need in this country. John Steenhuisen is a pale imitation of Helen Zille. So Mike said, Mike said I can talk about anything I want. I want to finish on a different note. Frans Cronje said to me on the plane, he said, Rob, I know you're taking a break from politics. You're getting wound up. You're getting angry. It's good. Come back September, October. But he said, why don't you do something different? When people go on podcasts and they just hear politics, your audience is limited. But if you talk about personal things and then put some politics in, you reach people because they want to know the personal stuff. Okay? So I want to talk about two things. Ozempic. Any of you who are a little bit overweight, I'm not going to point you out. I see a few beer boops and tummies around here. You have to consider Ozempic, okay? I'm on it. I take Ozempic. My wife's a doctor. She said, be honest. I was at 98 kilos. I'm at 88 kilos now. I didn't have to go to the gym. I didn't have to diet. I just got there magically 2 months. It is a wonder drug. If you take penicillin, the pill, and antibiotics as the greatest breakthroughs in medical history, you can add the 3 new drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro, to that. Not only do you lose weight, and by the way, it's been part of the insulin treatment for diabetics for 30 years. So it was automatically FDA approved. Not only do you lose weight, which reduces your risk of heart attack, you lower your gym, your Virgin Active bill, because you don't really need to go there anymore, and your Burger King bill. It has huge health benefits on aging, on liver and kidney. If you have liver and kidney immune issues, it has massive positive development. But there are 2 more benefits that they're going to announce very soon. Anti-aging and anti-addiction. These drugs are coming out in pill form at the end of the year. So you no longer have to inject yourself. If you've got a little tummy going and you want to get rid of it, I cannot recommend it more. How many businessmen get up and give personal stuff like that? The second thing I want to say is there are only 2 Bitcoin scientists in South Africa. One of them sitting at the table over there. Carl, put your hand up. Carl Diacha. Carl and Stafford Marzi, who you probably heard of, about 2 years ago, when Bitcoin was around 40,000, told me the story of Bitcoin and the penny drop. And since then, I've been a Bitcoin maximalist. I look at business deals, I look at Bitcoin, and I find absolutely no ability to invest in any other businesses. My money just keeps going into Bitcoin. And I want all of you, it's not too late, go online, go onto YouTube, and listen to Michael Saylor and other people talking about Bitcoin and understand it. It is going to change the world more than anything else I've ever seen from a business perspective. It is the only investment I have ever seen that is completely uncorrelated to the world monetary system. What does that mean? If you own dollars in the bank, because they print money, your dollar depreciates at 7.5% a year. Okay? Sitting there, you lose 7.5%. The rand is probably 15 to 20. So actually having currency and not doing anything with it, you're losing money. Okay? Bitcoin against even the Magnificent Seven stocks has outperformed them all, and it's only just begun. Coral, what percentage of the world own Bitcoin? Less than 5%. Okay, less than 5% of the world own Bitcoin. Less than 10% of the world understand what the hell I'm talking about. This is the time to get in. And you know why? Price is moving because companies, institutions, and countries are going to start adopting Bitcoin. And once that happens, once that adoption happens, the price will go through the roof. 21 million Bitcoin will only ever be produced. We're at 19.1 at the moment, and 6 million of them have been lost. People forgot their codes. People got rid of their hard drives. People forgot they bought them when they were $20, $50, $1,000. It will be the best investment, generational investment you make in your lives. Okay? This is financial advice. You know, everyone goes, oh, it's not financial advice. This is financial. And Carl and I and Stafford are trying to persuade the South African government to adopt Bitcoin Treasury Reserve, like the country of Bhutan has done, El Salvador has done. And what's the statistics on Bhutan? They pay the whole civil service wage for their investment in Bitcoin. We have been talking to Eskom as well, actually with Dan Morikane last night, Carl and I and Stafford, to try and persuade Eskom to use the power that it can't monetize. So during the day, sun doesn't shine, so there's no solar, wind doesn't blow, so no wind energy, or when the grid doesn't want the power, there is unsold energy, and a lot of it. We're trying to persuade Eskom to take that unsold energy and just pump it into Bitcoin mines and produce Bitcoin. If they do that, they will pay off their debt in 4 years and have over 200 billion rand surplus on at no cost. On that note, thank you very much.